Hello, welcome back to Life Literature. After a long spell of time, I have thought of joining you once again just to share my experiences in literature with you and to help you and guide you through this particular study of literature. This time, I thought of sharing my experiences in the prose passages that we have in our syllabus. As the first one, I have selected Lahore Attack by Kumar Sangakkara. I suppose that you have read this particular extract and you are quite thorough with the extract. Assuming that, I feel now I have to analyze this particular extract with you with much details and help you with the themes that is being shared here by our very own cricketer Kumar Sangakkara. First of all, we'll see what this particular extract is. This is a speech delivered by Kumar Sangakkara, our own cricketing captain of one time, and it is a speech that radiated passion, emotion, patriotism, and the true spirit of cricket. Delivered on 5th of July 2011 at Lord's in England. We'll see who Kumar Sangakkara is. I know I need not to explain who he is. You are quite aware of him. But anyway, I would like to share some information about him. He is a world-class cricketer in our own Sri Lankan cricket team, and he is a top-order batsman, one of the most skilled wicket keepers of the world, and also he had captained the Sri Lankan cricket team from 2008 to 2011, and he stepped down from his captaincy after the World Cup finals in 2011. Now we'll see what this Colin Cowdrey lecture is, because it is mentioned at the very beginning of the extract in our book that it is an extract taken from the Colin Cowdrey lecture. Who's Colin Cowdrey and what is this lecture? We'll see what it is all about. The Colin Cowdrey lecture is an annual event organized at Lord's Cricket Ground by the Marylebone Cricket Club, popularly known as MCC, Marylebone Cricket Club. It was first hosted in 2001 following the death of the legendary cricketer in England called Colin Cowdrey. He is popularly known as Sir Colin Cowdrey. So, in memory of this great cricketer in England, this event is usually held annually. And usually, this speech is delivered by a preeminent cricketing personality of international reputation. And in 2011, it had been our own cricketer Kumar Sangakkara, and he had been the 11th speaker and one and only Sri Lankan player who had ever delivered this speech so far. So we have to be very proud of him. He had made our country, the name of our country, glitter among the international cricketing fans by this lecture. Let's start the study of the extract of the speech now. What Kumar Sangakkara has actually wanted to present in front of the international cricketing community. So, this part of the speech actually does not only have information about cricket, it also carries information about war as well. What war, you might wonder? Yes, this was the war which had been in Sri Lanka for quite a lot of time, almost over 3 decades. That is the terrorism created by the LTTE, Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. This LTTE terrorist group had been scattering violence, spreading violence within the country from the beginnings of 1990s and even before that even. But here, of course, Kumar Sangakkara mentions about the violence that had been spread by the terrorist group from 1990s until up to 2011. So this terrorist group had been creating violence in our country, killed so many people, had bombs here and there, and even especially the northern and eastern provinces areas of our country were affected. And not only those areas, even the people in the middle of the country, including Colombo and the town areas such as Anuradhapura and even the central province, we had been affected very badly by the terrorism kindled by the terrorist group LTTE. I know that we have discussed all these things in our syllabus through some other poems like Big Match 1983, and there had been several instances in our syllabus where we are open to this kind of terrorism spread in Sri Lanka by the LTTE group. Not only this war situation in Sri Lanka, even another terrorist incident kindled by a terrorist group in Pakistan is also being shared with us by Kumar Sangakkara through his speech. That is the Lahore attack, which they faced way back in 2009 when they were touring Pakistan. So therefore you must understand, along with the theme cricket, there is the theme war as well in this particular extract. And not only that, not only the war situations in Sri Lanka, we are exposed to two heroes of the time. Two heroes are seen in par within the two fields. One field of the cricket field and the other field is the war field. Sangha as the hero of the cricket field and a soldier at the Colombo checkpoint as another hero of the battlefield. At one point he says, in other parts of the country though, people were putting their lives in harm's way every day, either in the defense of their motherland or just trying to survive the geographical circumstances that made them inhabit a war zone. This is how he presents to us, to the audience, about the war condition that was there in Sri Lanka during that time. So in other parts of the country means even before this particular point, he mentions about Colombo. He talks about Colombo because by that time Colombo had not been much influenced. He says, I played my cricket and the other people in these areas had gone to their work, had continued with their jobs, and Sangakkara had played his cricket, it seems. But during the same time in the other parts of the country, what are these other parts? Especially the northern province and the eastern province. The people of those provinces, they were putting their lives in harm's way. That means their lives were constantly on threat. And every day this threat had been there with them. So there had been two kinds of people in those areas. One sector of people, they were risking their lives in defending their motherland. Who were the people who risked their lives in defending their motherland? Of course, the military personnel. Maybe the army personnel, air force, navy, and also the police people. They were trying to secure the country. They were trying to protect the country. And while doing so, they were putting their lives in harm's way. And who had been the other sector of people? Of course, they were the inhabitants of this particular area, northern and eastern provinces of Sri Lanka. They were trying their best to survive the geographical circumstances that made them inhabit a war zone. They were living in a war zone and they did not have any other option but to continue living there. So they had to face the harms and threats of the violence created by the LTTE terrorist group. So that is one incident where Sangha tells us about the difficulties of this terrorism. And at another point he says for them, avoiding bullets, shells, mines, and grenades was imperative for survival. This line particularly stamps the idea how much violence they had been exposed to. For their imperative survival, essential things had been not only the food and clothes and shelter, this had also been essential. Avoiding bullets, shells and mines and grenades, all are explosives. So they had to learn the art of living among the explosives. So that shows the violence the people were facing during that time of the country. Okay, now we'll see how Sangha exposes us to the violence of the Lahore attack. Now you might wonder where this Lahore is. Lahore is actually one of the main cities in Pakistan, and in 2009 our Sri Lankan cricket team was invited to play 2 test matches in Pakistan, one in Lahore and the other one in Karachi. So the first test match had been the one which was played in Karachi, and without any great incident it had passed by. They had finished playing the test match, and now by the time Sangha was mentioning here in the speech, they were on the 3rd day of the second test match, which was played in Lahore, actually at the Gaddafi Stadium. So there, Sangha mentions one of his own personal experiences. He says, I was fortunate that during my life, I never experienced violence in Sri Lanka firsthand. So that had been the case of many of us. Many people who were living in the middle part of the country, they were not exposed to this type of first-hand violence, even though they lived 30 long years amidst war and violence. So the people who were the inhabitants in the middle part of the country, they were really lucky, including Sangha. They have never experienced violence first-hand. That means they have themselves never experienced violence. They had only seen and heard of violence, maybe through newspapers, maybe through television, and so on and so forth. So Sangha had been one among the lucky lot. And also, he does not forget to say that was until we toured Pakistan in 2009. So he had been only lucky within Sri Lanka only up to 2009. When they had toured Pakistan, the situation changed for him. So at this point, he describes the violence that he and the team members had faced within the bus when they were going towards the Gaddafi Stadium on the 3rd day of the second test match. So his description starts with a line like this: "Get down, they are shooting at the bus." That's how they were first exposed to violence. Then the bullets started to hit. It was like rain on a tin roof. Such beautiful way of putting down, getting the violence and the horror of the situation. Sangha uses a simile there and talks about the violence they had faced. It was like rain on a tin roof, which indicates the power of the bullets, the speed of the bullets, and the immensity of the bullets that had showered on them while they were inside the bus. As I turned my head to look at him, I feel something whiz past my ear and a bullet thuds into the side of the seat, the exact spot where my head had been a few seconds earlier. This rather long sentence makes us exposed to the violence that Sangha and the cricket team had faced at that moment way back in 2009. So Sangha had been turning his head to look at him. Who's this him? I suppose you can remember. He had been Tilan Tushara, who had wished that if a bomb would go off for them to come back to Sri Lanka, maybe because of the poor conditions that they were facing in Pakistan at that time. So something whispers my ear, onomatopoeic word Sangha is using here just to tell us, just to show us the speed of the bullet that had gone just near his ear in a high speed. And another onomatopoeic word he uses, thuds into the side of the seat. So the bullet thuds into, the word suggests the sound. It thuds into the side of the seat, and here he reveals it had been the exact spot where Sangakkara's head had been lying a minute, no, not even a minute, a second earlier. So this shows the violence, this shows the uncertainty of life, how our life would pass in just a moment, just a second. It's just a matter of a split second. So our lives are that much uncertain, especially in the face of violence and terrorism. Also, we see another picture of violence, brutal violence, through the description of Taranga Paranavitana. He holds his blood-soaked chest. So can you remember, he stood up, forgetting that even standing had been a great risk because he was so panicked, he was extremely panicked. That's why he stood up, holding onto his blood-soaked chest. And also there's a reference about Ajantha Mendis, one of the most popular cricketers in one time. His head soaked in bandages after multiple shrapnel wounds. We all realize that what some of our fellow Sri Lankans experienced every day for nearly 30 years. So there, Sangakkara tells us about his realization of what war and violence can, how war and violence can make the life of human beings quite unsatisfactory and also a suffering. There was a new respect and awe for their courage and selflessness. He says, he reveals humbly, earlier it had only been sympathy and compassion. I hope that you can remember. He had sympathy and compassion for the people who were suffering in northern and eastern parts of Sri Lanka, either as security personnel or as inhabitants. But now, of course, he says, after this experience, very bad and brutal experience, he had developed a new kind of respect and awe towards the people who inhabited the war zone and also the security personnel who had sacrificed, who had put their lives in harm's way in sacrification for the protection of their country. And also, now we'll talk of the heroism of the two heroes we find in this particular extract of the speech. One hero, of course, is you're well aware of, that is the hero Kumar Sangakkara, the cricketing legend in our country in Sri Lanka, the hero of the cricket field. And the other hero who had now been created in our mind, who is being created as a greater image of the country, is the soldier whom Sangha meets at the Colombo checkpoint just after they had come back to Sri Lanka after facing the Lahore attack. So this soldier stops Kumar Sangakkara and inquires after his health. He seems also to be a great fan of Kumar Sangakkara, a great fan of cricket, he seems to be. And he says something like this: "It's okay if I die because it's my job and I am ready for it. But you are a hero, and if you were to die, it would be a great loss for our country." That's his attitude towards Kumar Sangakkara. He says this in response to the Kumar Sangakkara's humble reference to the exposure of violence of the soldiers in our country. He seems to believe that their lives are not as important as Sangakkara's life because Sangakkara is a legend. Sangakkara is a hero. Sangakkara is a brilliant star in the field of cricket in Sri Lanka. So there are no, I believe there are no other representatives and also no alternatives to replace him. He seems to be believing. And Sangakkara, in response to this attitude of the soldier, was at first quite bewildered at this much of love he was showered on, and also then he believes something like this. He says, "This is the passion that cricket and cricketers evoke in Sri Lankans. This is the love that I strive every day of my career to be worthy of." So in order to pay for this gratitude shown by the cricket fans of Sri Lanka, Sangakkara humbly seems to believe that he should be worthy of this love. How can he be worthy of this love, this great love of the people of Sri Lanka? By playing good cricket, by bringing fame to the country, by winning matches and showering love among the cricket fans of the entire world. So that's how he plans to pay gratitude to the cricket fans of the entire world, especially in Sri Lanka. So this very English game, which had been originated in England and been given to us during the colonial era to Sri Lanka, has turned out to be a very Sri Lankan game, a game which had rendered the hearts of many Sri Lankan fans of cricket. Okay, now let's move on to the themes. Theme number 1, the most important and the very much significant theme of this particular extract, or especially of the speech delivered by Kumar Sangakkara, the true spirit of cricket. What do you think is the true spirit of cricket? All say a cricketer plays for his country. How can a cricketer play for his country? That is a question, and that is something that everyone wonders, whether all these cricketers play really for their countries. There had been so many disputes and controversies which had been building around this theme or building around this issue. But anyway, we'll see how can a cricketer truly represent a country. Sangakkara seems to believe that cricket has provided an avenue, a path for Sri Lankans to transcend war and all kinds of discriminations, because during a time of brutal war and terrorism, Sri Lanka as a nation had loved this game. It had been during this era that we had won the World Cup in 1996. So it had been a game which had forgotten the brutal memories and the oppressions and suppressions of war among the Sri Lankans. And not only that, all types of discriminations. That means racial discriminations, religious discriminations, and social discriminations on social status and all. Everything is being forgotten in and within and through the game of cricket. At one particular part of his speech, Sangha says, here were 15 individuals from different backgrounds, races, religions, each fiercely proud of his own individuality and yet united, not just a team but a family. Of course, we don't find this particular part in our extract, but I firmly believe that it is quite vital to deliver this theme, to forward this theme. Here we find 15 individuals, means the 15 team members who represented the Sri Lanka, the country Sri Lanka. They were from different religions like Muttaya Murladiran, Chamindavas. So we remember so many names. Matthews, Angelo Matthews, different races, different religions, but they had been united not just as a team but as a family. Sangha uses that word family. Family shows us the closely knitted unit of the society, the basic unit of the society. So here, through the game of cricket, unity is paved through. Unity is paved across to the society. So all races of spectators, all religions of spectators, they support the team without any feelings of discriminations, right? With me, and also he ends the speech in this manner. He says, with me are all my people. I am Tamil, Sinhalese, Muslim and Burgher. I am a Buddhist, a Hindu, a follower of Islam and Christianity. I am today and always proudly Sri Lankan. That's how he ends the speech, and of course we don't find it there in our syllabus, in our extract, but it is also equally vital. With this statement, he shows us what a cricketer truly represents. A cricketer represents his country. This is how a cricketer can represent his country. So Sangha conveys that beautifully to the audience, to the entire international community of cricket lovers. And another theme that we come across in this page is the player-fan relationship, or actually the love of cricket we meet in Sri Lanka. At one time, cricket had been a craze among all walks of life in our country, beginning from the toddler to the very old person, very old man. They equally loved cricket in Sri Lanka during the time of Sangha and many other great cricketers. So it is very well conveyed through this phrase, how can this man value his life less than mine? So that had been the question that Sangha has raised in response to the attitude the soldier at the Colombo checkpoint forwarded in front of Sangha. How can this man value his life less than mine? So nobody can value his or her own life less than another person. But of course the soldier believes so. Soldier believes that Sangha is more a significant personality to the country better than him as a soldier. And also, Sangha says, as I have mentioned earlier, this is the love that I strive every day of my career to be worthy of. So the first phrase tells us, the first line tells us the love of the fans towards cricketers, and the Sangha's attitudes towards the soldier reveals us the love of the cricketers towards fans. So this beautiful relationship between the cricketers and the fans has enabled Sri Lanka to win the World Cup trophy in 1996, I believe. And after that also, we have bagged many wonderful rewards, many wonderful awards in the field of cricket. The secret behind this must have been this great player-fan relationship which existed in the country towards this game. Another important theme that we find here is the violence of terrorism. Sangha brings us very strongly the violence that the Sri Lankan people within that era had faced because of the LTTE terrorism, and also he himself and the players of the team had experienced in Lahore way back in 2009. So this is the violence which we face as victims of violence and terrorism. So this is a universal topic which is there all around the world from time to time. And at the same time, another theme is also there, that is the patriotism of Sangha. So patriotism of Sangha is very much explicit in some of the phrases that I have forwarded to you earlier about how Sangha believes that he represents the entire Sri Lanka without any discrimination of any sort of race, religion and everything. So these are the themes of the extract we have just finished now, Lahore attack, and I suppose that you have gained some kind of insight to this. So if you have problems, mention down below. I'm ever ready to answer you, and I hope to meet you with another prose passage very soon. Have a nice time. Goodbye.